Welcome back in on this Saturday morning. It's the Zach Gelb Show right here on CBS Sports Radio. We continue our NFL draft conversation. Now we're going to touch on the Jets for a little bit, who are sitting at the number 3 pick in the draft. We're going to head out to the hotline and welcome in Connor Hughes, who covers the Jets for The Athletic and is also an NFL insider for SNY TV. You can give him a follow on Twitter at Connor_J_Hughes. And he's kind enough to join us right now on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Connor, appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for the time. How are you?
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. So before we get to the draft and the anticipation that's building up for Thursday night to see what the Jets will do at 3, give me a little recap on this Jets offseason up to this date so far.
Yeah, man, it's been obviously pretty interesting, I guess, is probably the best way to describe it. You know, they began the off season with the most salary cap space of any team in the NFL. They obviously began the off season with quite a few holes as well, so they were able to plug it. You know, Tremaine Johnson is a tremendous cornerback and one of the better in the league, and the Jets now are able to go ahead and add him to the roster. Avery Williamson is another kind of low-key signing the Jets were able to get done. He's pretty much like a younger version of Demario Davis, so they were able to, by letting Demario Davis go, actually improve the position there with a younger version there in the 26-year-old Williamson. They went out there. They signed Spencer Long, the former center from the Washington Redskins. They're hoping he can stay healthy and be a pretty good player for them at the middle of their offensive line. And then kind of the underrating signing a little bit, which could be one of those moves that, you know, not too many people talk about when it's done. But, you know, when the season wraps up, you're talking about it being one of the better moves of the entire offseason is the signing of Terrell Pryor. You know, a big physical guy who a couple of years ago had a really good season with Browns. Not so hot last year with the Washington Redskins, but, you know, he kind of gets a new start with the Jets on a team-friendly deal. And he's kind of motivated because it's a one-year contract. So if he has a pretty big year, he can come out there and probably cash in again next offseason.
I never thought the Jets were going to be able to land Kirk Cousins in free agency. They end up bringing back McCown, and they also bring in Bridgewater. And on Thursday, I'm going to say it's 99.9% likely, probably 100% likely that they're going to take a quarterback in this draft. But that dynamic of McCown and Bridgewater and then also another quarterback coming in, I'm going to be very fascinated to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. You know, I think that obviously as Todd Bowles said, you know, and they actually told Josh McCown this when he signed his contract, that he's going to be the starter when the season or when the off season begins. You know, he's going to be the guy when you go into training camp. He will be the starting quarterback, but then it's going to be an open competition. You know, if Teddy Bridgewater is the best of these 3 quarterbacks, Teddy Bridgewater will start. If the rookie is the best of 3 quarterbacks, he'll start. If Josh McCown's the best, he'll start. So we'll see how this thing plays out, but. You know, it is kind of interesting. You know, obviously the best case scenario for the Jets this offseason was to get Kirk Cousins. You know, that's the guy that they wanted more than anything else. That's the guy that they were going to offer more money than anybody else to bring it in here. But when that didn't happen and Kirk elected to go to Washington, the Jets had to go to Minnesota. The Jets had to go to the next best thing. And for them, that was bringing back Josh McCown, the veteran, taking a flyer on Teddy Bridgewater to see if he has anything left in the tank, and then investing a first-round pick in a rookie quarterback who can be this team's future at the position and a franchise guy.
The Bridgewater move, it's a low-risk, high-reward type of situation. Everyone's going to feel good about where your team sits as you're in April, and everyone's going to be trying to throw you the positivity. But realistically, what could the Jets expect out of Bridgewater for this upcoming season?
He's the ultimate lottery ticket, man. I mean, that's kind of what this is that they essentially spent nothing to get him. I mean, they literally guaranteed like $500,000 of his contract, and that's it. So they have essentially, he's a guy that they're bringing in here where if he turns into even slightly the player that he was in 2015 when he was a Pro Bowl quarterback, guess what? The Jets have a franchise quarterback plus Josh McCown plus the guy that just invested a 3rd-round pick in. But the more you look into this Teddy Bridgewater situation, the more you realize that the odds are really stacked against him returning to that form. And in all likelihood, if he's even able to just play or be a competent player, it'll be a pretty good situation because, you know, this is right now with Teddy. He's a guy that hasn't played football, hasn't started a game really in 2 full seasons. He's a guy that had a gruesome leg injury to the point where they actually thought they might have to amputate. So I mean, this is a guy that you don't know what you got. And I think that the biggest tell for him and the biggest thing where you said, you know what, I don't know if this guy's got it anymore was probably when Mike Zimmer at the NFL's annual meeting made the comment about how, when we had our doctors look at him, well, they were a little bit less optimistic than I was. I mean, that's kind of a really, really big tell for where his health is. And I think at this point with the Jets, look, they guaranteed him $500,000, like I said. If he can play, awesome. If he can't, you know what? Well, he can't play anymore, and that's kind of what it is. So, we'll see what happens with him, but I think I would be no less shocked if Teddy Bridgewater's on the roster compared to if Teddy Bridgewater was starting week one. I mean, it really is a 50-50.
Talking to Connor Hughes right now on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. In the offseason as well, the Jets, they move up from 6 to 3 in the NFL draft. We know the Jets are going to take a quarterback, but let's revisit that trade. When it happened, I wasn't against it, but it doesn't guarantee that you're going to get your guy at number 3. How close were they? How many conversations did they have with the Browns and also the Giants, maybe to move up a little bit closer than the third pick with the Indianapolis Colts they ended up trading for?
They didn't talk to the Giants. Nothing in actual. It never progressed like this. They made a phone call to the Giants, but it was never the point of actually discussing a legitimate trade. The team that they discussed a legitimate trade with was the Browns to go up there to number 1. That was the team that they did call. The issue was that to go from 6 to 1, it was going to cost not only some second-round picks, but also next year's first-round pick. And that just wasn't a price the Jets were willing to give up. It wasn't something they were willing to do. So what they realized was that, Mike McCagnon got Brian Heimerdinger and all of his, guys all of his guys that he trusts and all of his personnel guys in a room and said, okay, look, let's play this one out, every single possible situation that can happen for us at the number 3 pick. Let's pick out every single guy the Browns could take at 1. Every single guy the Giants could take it to. Let's see if we are comfortable with the outcome. Are we going to be okay with this situation no matter what happens at number 3? And they came to the agreement that we are fine with any situation that's going to happen at 3. So for the Jets, it made more sense to go from 6 to 3 and keep those future first-round picks compared to back out of that, compared to go up to the number 1 pick, get the one quarterback that you really want, but have to give up extra first-round picks. That just didn't make sense to the Jets, so they didn't make the move.
You know it and I know it. Whoever they take at number 3, they're going to say, oh, this is the guy that we wanted all along. This is the guy that we like the best. But if you shoot him up with True Serum, who is the quarterback that you actually think they do like the best? Doesn't mean they're going to get him at 3, but who's the quarterback they like the best?
It's Darnold. Darnold is the guy that, from what I understand and from what I've been told, he's probably number 1 on their board. Obviously, Mike McCagnon likes to keep everything close to the vest. He's never going to come out and say anything. But reading the tea leaves and kind of seeing and talking to people that do hear these rumblings, Darnold is number 1 on their list. And if Darnold is a guy that is going to slip to them at number 3, they're going to take him. They would take him over Rosen. They would take him over Mayfield. They would definitely take him over Josh Allen. So he's number 1 on their list. But the Jets really never believed that was possible. They never thought that getting Sam Darnold was possible, which is why originally they never even had him scheduled to visit the team's facility. They were bringing in Allen. They were bringing in Rosen. They were bringing in Mayfield. They were not bringing in Sam Darnold because they never thought it was possible to get him. But with all this latest talk about how the Browns could potentially take Josh Allen number 1 or Saquon Barkley number 1, or the Giants could take Barkley and the Browns could take Allen, well, suddenly now it's possible that the Jets' number 1 quarterback falls to them at number 3. Suddenly that crazy situation no one thought was possible is possible. So they brought him in last minute, checked that one off. So if for some reason he falls to them, I think that he will be the guy that they take. I think he is number 1, followed by probably Baker Mayfield, then Josh Rosen, and then Josh Allen.
Why is Mayfield then the preference there, assuming that Darnold is off the board? Why do they like Mayfield more over Rosen and Allen?
I think that there are some off-field concerns with Josh Rosen. I know that look, some of his coaches take it. They'll go to battle for him and they'll say everything's fine with him. And then obviously, there were stories out there of what he did in high school that show he's a good teammate. But the reputation that he developed as a freshman at UCLA and the reputation he has that he's a little difficult to coach, that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And when you're going to invest this high of a draft pick, and in Mike McCagnon's position here, he's putting his job on the line for him. If this rookie quarterback doesn't pan out, if this rookie quarterback doesn't pan out and Teddy Bridgewater's not, a franchise quarterback himself, the Jets Mike McCagnon's going to be out of a job. The Jets are going to let him go. You don't get to keep swinging and missing on quarterbacks. Eventually the Jets are going to get somebody who can hit him. So this is a situation for Mike McCagnon where if he's going to invest his job and put his job on the line for this rookie quarterback, he wants to make sure he checks all the boxes. And with Rosen, there are less off-field concerns with Baker Mayfield in terms of personality and all that stuff than there are with Rosen. And when it comes to Josh Allen, there are less on-field concerns with Mayfield than there are with Josh Allen. So everything kind of works out in that favor for Baker Mayfield. You know what I mean? Like that he is the guy that has the least concerns of anyone else. He's a better on-field product than Josh Allen right now and less of a risk, and he's less of a risk off the field than Josh Rosen.
Even with the arrest and the video, they still feel that way about Mayfield?
Yeah, I mean, look, you can talk to a lot of people and everything like that, and when you talk to these scouts, he checks off those boxes. It was a mistake. It wasn't good. It's not a great look, but look, it's not like he was physically assaulting, a female. It's not like he was going out and it wasn't like drugs were involved. He ran away from the cops when he was being questioned. It was not right. It was not good, obviously, but he's kind of answered those questions in the interview process that he's had to go on. And it's one of the reasons why so few teams or anybody are really talking about that.
Talking to Connor Hughes, covers the Jets for the Athletics, NFL insider for SNY TV right now on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. You talk about Maccagnan, he has to get this right. We know that, like we've been talking about in this conversation. I don't really kill him for petty. I thought Hackenberg was a terrible pick in the second round. If you had to make the argument on why he will get this right, how do you make that argument?
Because he's down 0-2 in the count, and he's got to get on base. The fact is that there are no more swings. There are no more chances for him to not get this right. So in a way, it's blind faith. That's kind of what you got to put on him. It's not like you have anything backing you that says Mike Maccagnan can evaluate and Mike Maccagnan can draft a quarterback, because if you go throughout his entire career, he's never been associated with a team that has drafted a franchise quarterback. Going back to Washington, Houston, all those stops that he's had throughout his career, he's never been on. Now, again, he was never the general manager at those other positions, and he was never in a position where he would be the guy that drafts that franchise quarterback. He wasn't the one calling the final shots, but he's never been in a scouting department that actually did it. He's never been on a scouting department that picked the franchise quarterback. So, that is reason for concern. But the fact is that if Mike Maccagnan does not get this franchise quarterback this year, if he doesn't get this pick right, he's going to be fired. So that's kind of the blind faith you have to put in him, is that he realizes that his job's on the line. Everyone else realizes his job's on the line, and they have been studying these quarterbacks for the better part of a year and a half. I mean, the Jets have kind of realized they would be in the market for these quarterbacks dating back to last year. So they've been studying them, and they've done a nauseatingly amount of homework on these guys. So you kind of have to just blindly hope that he gets this right. And again, look, I mean, when we were at the NFL's annual meeting, Todd Bowles called the draft an educated crapshoot. And that's kind of the perfect description of this, is that nobody knows. Nobody bats 1,000 when it comes to the NFL draft. Nobody really even bats, or nobody even hits 70, 80% of their picks. I mean, your success rates, at the best success rates, are probably 30, 40% in the draft. So it's not like everybody's incredible at this, but at this point, you kind of just have to say, you know what? Mike Maccagnan realizes his job's on the line. He's put in all of this time evaluating these guys, done all of his homework. He's got to get it right. You just got to hope that he does.
Before, last few years we've seen the draft rotate around, but before that it was always in New York. We've seen it in Chicago, Philadelphia, and now we're going to get to see it in Dallas. It kind of stinks that the draft isn't in New York this year, because you have the Giants picking at 2, the Jets picking at 3. We know that's going to be a storyline, these two draft picks for the next 5 to 10 years. But I kind of wish that the draft was actually in New York again, with all the storyline and all the buildup, especially with the Giants picking 2 and the Jets picking 3.
Oh, I totally agree with you, man. Not only that, but even more than that, than the draft being in New York, you kind of hope that the Giants take a quarterback. Just imagine those storylines, right? I mean, you have the Giants at number 2 and the Jets at number 3 both taking quarterbacks. The number 2 and number 3 picks both playing in New York, both guys that if they hit these right, they're going to be franchise quarterbacks that are going to have these teams contending for the next 15 seasons. I think about it from both perspectives. If you go the positive route, right, the Giants get a franchise quarterback in Darnold, the Jets get a franchise quarterback in Mayfield. If you've got an NFC and AFC team with both franchise quarterbacks drafted this year, they're going to play the next 15 years together, there's probably a pretty good chance that they're going to meet each other in the Super Bowl. Right? Can you imagine those storylines there? Just those storylines alone, the Giants, Jets, the rookie quarterbacks playing in the Super Bowl. But aside from that, if they miss them, you've got the whole storyline of the Giants picked the wrong guy at 2 and the Jets picked the right guy at 3, or the Jets picked the wrong guy at 3 and the Giants got him at 2. It's just going to be an awesome time for New York if both these teams draft quarterbacks, and obviously it'll be the best if those 2 quarterbacks pan out. But either way, I mean, it's going to be fun. It's really going to be a fun year, because I don't know if both these teams have picked this high in the draft before, in terms of the Giants and the Jets at 2 and 3, or 1 and 2, or 3 and 4.
Connor, last one for you. Just give me the 3 names, 1, 2, and 3 in this year's draft. Who are the 3 players? How does this play out?
Yeah, I think it's going. It's tough, man. Because I think that Here's the three ways that I think it's going to, or there's two ways that I think this one's going to go. It's going to go either Josh Allen 1, Saquon Barkley 2, and Baker Mayfield 3, or it's Sam Darnold 3, or it's going to be Sam Darnold 1, Saquon Barkley 2, Baker Mayfield 3. I think those are the two possible options. If Darnold goes 1, Mayfield's going, or if Darnold goes 1, Mayfield's going 3. If Allen goes 1, Darnold's going 3. And I think that the way this one's looking is that the Giants, kind of no matter what, they're going to be taking Saquon Barkley there too. That's kind of what it's looking like, right?
Well, why do you feel that way with the Giants at 2? Because I would have actually thought that if Darnold falls 2-2, that's where the Giants were going to be going.
Yeah, they could. Look, man, I don't know about. I'm not tied into the Giants organization. I'm not. My sources aren't within there. I'm not talking to people there and with the Giants' point of view. Obviously I cover the Jets, but just listening to what Dave Gettleman said the other day and listening to some of the remarks there and some of the gossip that's coming out, it just kind of seems like the Giants. Look, I mean, you do these Mel Kiper and Todd McShay conference calls, and those guys are saying that they definitely see him going there. There's just so much right now pointing the Jets or the Giants to Barkley. It just seems like that's where he's going to go. But hey, look, man, if Darnold falls to 2, then maybe it is Barkley, or maybe it isn't Barkley there. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be wild. It's going to be fun. I think that's what we can all agree on.
Yeah, and you're also right that this is a crapshoot. Once again, Connor Hughes covers the Jets for The Athletic, NFL Insider for SNY TV, and you can follow him on Twitter, Connor_J_Hughes. We appreciate it, my friend.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you for having me on.